By the way, ladies and gentlemen, I've got some handouts. They're on the table in the back of the room. Board members. You got some council files to act on.
Okay. There was a typo at the printer, and instead of printing 40 copies of everything, they printed 4. We have a person that's back there now getting the rest, so the agendas, minutes, and monthly expenditure reports and budget reports will be here shortly, and they'll be on the back table. So I am going to call the meeting to order, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Roy, can I ask you to lead us? Ralph, thank you.
Please face the flag. Hold the right hand over your heart. Salute if you're a veteran. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Mr. Matthews, our secretary, was unable to attend at the last minute, so I'm going to call roll. David, if you're ready to mark it down. Right. Brad Smith, excused. Jerry Askew is here. Anthony Matthews, excused. Brandon Schindelheim, absent. Mike Benedetto. Here. Jeffrey Bohr. Here. Bonnie Burst.
Here.
Krista Crawford Velasco. Art Dosh.
Here.
Jed Dunlap.
Here.
Gina Greshner. Varun Karuna. He was here and he left the excuse. Sally Kolstad.
Here.
Darren Lopez.
Here.
Eric Manser.
Here.
Jim Summers.
Here.
Renee Trinidad is excused. Ross Termel.
Here.
Cindy Wu Friedman. Sorry? Okay. Okay. David, can you give me a count?
12, that's a quorum.
Okay, 12 members, we have a quorum. Since we do not have our copies of the minutes yet, they should be here shortly. I'm going to defer that item and move into public comment. The open public comment period is for public comment related matters which are not part of this meeting's agenda. By law, board members are prohibited from engaging in substantive discussion on matters that are not part of the agenda. Public comment on matters that are related to the agenda items may be made at the time the item is brought up for consideration. Due to time limits on the use of this meeting location, the open public comment period will be limited to 15 minutes, and the public comment period for individual agenda items will be limited to 5 minutes per item. Individual speakers are limited to 2 minutes each during any public comment period, and a cumulative total of 5 minutes throughout the meeting. Times are measured in 1 minute increments. The presiding officer may grant or deny speakers additional time and shall have the sole authority to grant the speaker's request to loan, cede, defer, or yield time to another speaker. Does anyone wish to make public comment on matters that are not part of the agenda? Okay, Mr. Kuzma.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. South Neighborhood Council Board. I'm assuming all of you got this copy of this email sent to me by Mr. Brad Smith. This email is in response to the grievance you submitted on October 3rd. Please note that the grievance process is only applicable to violations by the board as an entity against its rules of procedure. Accordingly, in consultation with the Office of the City Attorney, your grievance against Mr. Master as an individual is dismissed. In addition, there is no board rule requiring that the bylaws committee must address every executive committee recommendation. Therefore, your grievance on this basis is also dismissed. Accordingly, the board will not address the items you have raised in your correspondence in the board's grievance please let us know if you have any further questions. The President's dismissal of the grievance is a violation of parliamentary procedures. The President does not have the authority to dismiss the grievance without board approval. The proper way to deal with the issue would have been to put on the agenda a motion to dismiss the grievance that was filed in compliance with the bylaws. The bylaws are silent as to whether a grievance can be filed against a specific board member or not. The bylaws do not restrict grievances to the board of directors exclusively. If you all want to be equally responsible and uphold the President's position to continue to discriminate against the community landlords and ignore the grievance panel's recommendations and continue to make decisions on behalf of the neighborhood council board without their approval, then wow, I guess things are worse than I thought. Here's a copy. It includes quoting the bylaws, so you can see that there is silence on the issue. Anybody else want to comment?
Thank you. Any other public comment on non-agendized items? Mr. Pitts?
I just want to let everybody know about an event happening on Thursday, November 13th. The DMV is having, the Chamber of Commerce is holding a ribbon cutting, the new DMV office opening at 2 o'clock on Thursday. There's been a lot of rumors that this is some kind of specific type of office, not a full office. Anyway, the state officials will be there, so you can ask them directly. So at 2 o'clock on the 13th of November, which is Thursday.
Where was that?
Woodley and San Fernando, the old Albertsons.
Okay, good.
Canceled.
Thank you, Richard. Mike, please.
My name is Mike Majors, and I'm here to talk about that. I understand, I guess, they knew that there's been some lack about it. The DMV has opened up a branch office here over on Woodley and San Fernando Mission. Basically, there's a new law that's going to take effect the 1st of January. Undocumented workers can go apply for a license. There's going to be such a strong influx of hitting the other local DMV offices. They're opening this one up just to renew, not to renew license, but to issue the undocumented workers license. They kept it very quiet. They don't want any controversy over it. If you call DMV in Sacramento, you can't, unless you know somebody up there, get any direct answers. They'll try to deny it. No, it's going to be a different thing. But nobody's done an impact study. You know how many people that's going to bring into that area next to Kennedy, well, schools in session and everything else? Have they done any type of an environmental study or anything? But it's too late now. It's already set. The building's up, the sign's up. They are going to be opening the 17th of, no, actually, you can, that's when they were supposed to have their ribbon cut, but it's been canceled. I got that from the chamber today. It was canceled.
Well, I heard 3 other places today and it wasn't.
Well, then I was told that it had been canceled. So, I mean, you can't get any direct answers. They don't want any type of comments from people on this. That's what the concern is. But I think studies need to be done, because it's gonna be a nightmare for that office. It's not being a racist issue or anything else, but the influx of people that are gonna bring into that area during the school time and everything else, I think it's gonna be a nightmare. I think neighborhood council, the people should have the right to be there and speak against it.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Mr. Mel, Dr. Mel.
I'm here tonight, right now speaking for James Stanton, Executive Director of the North Valley YMCA. Tonight's their big gala dinner, I guess, and she was not able to come or send another representative. Every year, the North Valley YMCA collects Thanksgiving baskets and gives them away to families in need. In 2007, when they started this project, they were just looking to give away 50 baskets. Well, this year, the goal is to give out 3,400 baskets at 30 different sites. And she wants to thank the Granada Hills South Neighborhood Council for the support that you've given her at the YMCA in the past years. I guess each year you've given $1,000, and she's asking for you to request consideration of $1,000 donation again this year.
Thank you, Dr. Miller?
Chief, had sent a letter to attachment, I don't know if you have a copy of that, or also another copy of that.
I saw the committee before.
Also in the back is, some other ways that you can help by volunteering the day of Thanksgiving, or by, donating different sponsorships, like that.
Great. Thank you very much. Any other public comment on non-agenda items? Bonnie?
Hi, just a couple things. You know the parade is about to happen, and if anybody wants to be a volunteer for the Granada Hills Parade, I have flyers for that. On Tuesday, December 2nd at 6:30, they have a volunteer parade meeting. So, you know, it takes a tremendous amount of people to make that thing run. And so I'm gonna put some flyers in the back for that. So if anybody, wants to do that, you can also contact Paul Ohio, the parade chairman. If you can't make it to that, maybe you still can make it the day of the parade. It takes lots of people to say, somebody there to help the horses stay there, and the people here, and the little girls there, and, always down the parade route. So this is run with a lot of volunteers, and I have a flyer for that. Also, they're putting out posters for the parade at all the shopping centers, and most of the people on the Chamber of Commerce have already volunteered for a location. But if anybody wants to volunteer to pick up posters at the Chamber of Commerce and put them, they need 3 to 4 people that would sign up to put the posters in the Balboa and Devonshire 4 corners of that shopping center. Because that's part of what they do to promote the parade. They put up posters everywhere, so that's an easy way to help the community. You can do it well in advance of the parade. So if you're in the parade, you can do that ahead of the parade and put up posters. So I'll put up that back there too. And if you do that, you can sign up. You can give it back to me. I'll give it to Paul. And I just wanted to comment that the YMCA thing, I also got the email. So yes, if people they need a lot of volunteers for that, because they are delivering so many baskets. So if anybody wants to help on the Thanksgiving volunteers, I got that email too, and I thought that is a very wonderful thing that the YMCA does.
Anybody? Any other public comment? Okay. Then we will move on. Again, I'm going to defer on the approval of the minutes until we have our copies of the agendas. Okay, community speakers. Tanya Ornes from CD12 wrote to me and said they'd be unable to make it today because of the booster dinner that they're having at the YMCA. So she apologized for not being here. For LAPD, I don't see Dario. Are there any speakers for LAPD? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on to board issues. First one is appointment confirmation of new board members. We have had no applications have been passed through. We'll skip that item. Review and approval of the monthly expenditure report. I'm going to defer that item until we have our copies actually delivered. Move on to officer reports. Brad Smith is absent, no report. Vice President, I have no report. Our treasurer is absent. So we will skip on that report, and our secretary is absent. So that makes quick work of that. Okay. So, all right. So, Eric, if you could explain the item for.
Okay, the reason I have requested this added is because of the problems we've had with Postal Plus. You go there, you have items you need printed for the meetings, and they tell you, well, you gotta pay at that time. And I said, well, don't we have an account here? He said, yes, we have an account, but you have to pay in advance. And I said, well, what good is an account? So, and as you can see here, we still don't have all our paperwork for tonight. Again, I think we can do better if we move from Postal Plus to another entity within the neighborhood. And one of the reasons we went with Postal Plus because it was a small mom and pop postal operation, but they just don't seem to be able to respond to our needs. And I just as soon move along to someone where we can take our documents and have them printed and everything in a timely manner without all the problems of having to pay in advance.
Well, Eric, do you want to refer this then to you either refer it to bylaws or you can refer it to outreach to say, be dealing with topics?
Well, I don't know if it's necessarily a bylaws thing, because where we get our things copied is not a bylaws issue. It's basically, we voted on using Postal Plus. It didn't go through bylaws or anything else. There's nothing in the bylaws that says that we have to use Postal Plus or anything else. It's just that we have to have some place to get our documents made. And it's not an outreach. I imagine outreach uses probably more than anybody else, but it still isn't an outreach situation. I think it's a board situation, and I think we should investigate other avenues of getting our documents made.
All right, let's have that referred to budget finance then, so they can make a recommendation on it.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay. All right, so David, if you could just enter that there's a request to budget finance to hear that item at their next meeting.
And by the way, I heard that I was not the only one who had problems with Postal Plus.
Okay. To committee reports. Ms. Burris, we have two items on here. I'm thinking that they're fairly well related, so if there's no objection, I'm going to combine these into a single item. Okay. Seeing none, any public comment on the beautification items?
Don't know what they are, don't have a copy of the agenda.
Okay.
Could you read them off so we know?
All right, so thank you for the suggestion. So this request is coming from the Rotary Club of Granada Hills for financial support for the annual holiday tree lighting at the Zelza Triangle. In past years, this has cost up to $3,500 to have the lights, which are owned by GSHNC and SWORD, to be professionally installed by a firm with requisite insurance and licensing. This can be considered a request to jointly with beautification and outreach committees, which has dealt with this issue in the past. Please note that the budget chair has suggested up to $3,000, which is available from various accounts to cover this cost. However, because this was not considered by either committee, supporting this event will require a motion, second, and discussion, and a vote by the full board. That is the first item. And the second item is a request to reapportion the street clock budget item of $5,000 across 2 years. So $2,500 from the fiscal year 14 and $25,000 from the fiscal year 15 budget to provide flexibility regarding the holiday tree lighting event. So with that read, I'd like to invite public comment again. Mr. Guzman.
I'm going to recuse myself and leave the room.
Okay. Please note that, David. Yes.
Hi, everyone. I heard both the motions. Probably spreading the clock over 2 years might be a good thing. But I am concerned about any allocations of any more monies without a definitive report from the treasurer as to exactly where he's gonna pull the money from and where he's gonna put it into before you spend the $3,000. So I request that you table the motion until you have a complete budget report and suggestions as to where the monies are gonna be reallocated before you take the vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Dr. Melvin?
Just to clarify this, just for the board members, this has really been a Granada Hills South Neighborhood Council project. The Rotary Club oversees it, but the Granada Hills South Neighborhood Council has done this for probably the last 5 years. You bought the lights and paid to have the lights put up, paid to have the lights taken down. It involves about 8 people working on taking the lights down. That's one of the reasons the cost is so much in putting the lights up and taking them down. Gene has his over there working down at the bottom with the PVC piping and arranging all the extension cords and all that type of thing, where the tree trimmer, the reason we hired a tree trimmer was in years past, the chamber had paid to do the lights. But then as the Veterans Park got built, they used to have a cherry picker from the city that would come out and put the lights up. So the cherry picker really can't get near the lights with all the electrical wires and all the work that's done on Veterans Park. They can't just drive across the triangle, and that's why the idea came to use the tree trimmer at the same time he trims up the tree. And that's why we're doing that. He has liability insurance, he's licensed by the city, and Brandon was able to work with him. But the Rotary Club really more or less backed out of it, we're not those neighborhood council paid the tree trimmer to do that. So, but we are involved. This is something, I don't know how it kind of got out of budget, but it's something we've done every year for probably 5 years. And the main thing the Rotary Club wants is just proof of insurance. And one, in writing to give permission to use the park to do that, which is not something we're gonna turn down, but we're just trying to clean up our act so everything's done correctly.
Great, thank you. Questions? Okay. John, did you have public comment?
No, this,
Other John?
Sorry.
But
If this is not the appropriate time, it's related to the grandmother clock, and since it's time for the discussion of the decorations. First of all, I'm a big fan of the holiday Christmas tree. My mother, about 25 years ago, came up with the idea of decorating that tree. So the fact that it's evolved to the point where it's as nice as it looks, I think the neighborhood council for helping them write that. Also, one of the things we have to board, generous grant for the town clock. For those of you who may not know, we just received a permit project to go ahead and do the White Oak Parkway project. And that's the 4 corners of White Oak and Chancellor. The capstone of that is the town clock. And at the last meeting, you were gracious enough to support a grant of $5,000 for the clock. And so the only dilemma we have in all this, and it's good to have this discussion, because everything's tied together, is now that the project has been permitted and ready to go, I come up with the order. And it usually takes about a couple months leeway time, but it has to be ordered, paid for, and installed. And so the only problem with having the grant done in a 2-year fiscal period is I believe you'd have to pay the vendor directly, if I'm not mistaken. And in either case, the clock has to be paid for now in August or September. So that's why it's so important that the grant that you approve remain at the level that it is. Otherwise, we will not be able to purchase the clock and install. And once that clock goes up, that's a year-round symbol of Granada Hills, and I think it's going to become a real wonderful brand to the community, to the merchants, the residents. And it's really the only time that the business community that we've ever asked for anything from the council. But when we did decide to make this request, we wanted something that would be in the sphere of hardscape, that would be there for years and years and years to come for everyone to enjoy. So as you kind of discuss this, obviously you're in a position of trying to spread your resources, but it's very important if we are to pursue the purchase of a clock and install it. Our goal is to have a big groundbreaking ceremony. The South Neighborhood Council is a major sponsor among 3-4 of the major sponsors. We plan to have a beautiful plaque for the ceremony and highlight the contribution of the neighborhood council. So,
thank you, John.
I'm
the lights being put up and how much we think the tree to be trimmed?
The total is $3,500.
No, but I mean, how much is it? You get it separate. How much is it to get it trimmed and how much is it for?
I have no idea. It's just one bid to do both. Some years he does more trimming, other years he does very little trimming, depending on what the tree needs. But he is a tree trimmer, that's his profession, climbing the tree. So he really hasn't broken down, and we haven't, gotten a bid for this year yet, because we're gonna be, usually it's something the neighborhood council did. The only reason the Rotary Club is involved, one, I talked to Brad and just said, we want to get insurance. He said, oh, it's like nobody budgeted that or something. I don't know how it got out of the budget, but, it's just something that happened in the last 5 years, so. Anyhow.
No, I was just wondering how much
Yeah.
it would be to just put the lights up this year and not trim the tree.
It probably wouldn't be that much difference, but we would obviously talk to him and see. It's never really been broken down.
In the past, we've always talked about this with a 2-month lead. Here it is November, and we're just now getting around to talking about it, because I know I was one who secured the lights in the past. And usually, we talked about, we didn't have to get no lights because we got more than enough.
Right.
So, but usually in July or August is when we start talking about that tree. And we start asking for what the bid is going to be to decorate the tree at that time. I don't know why this year none of that happened in advance, so we would always.
Usually Dave would just come to me even in November and said it's on the agenda, and it was just a done deal,
Yeah.
in the budget, it was taken care of. I think the plan in the future would be to try and divide it up between the neighborhood councils and maybe some other groups. But, the chamber also is a possibility they could take it back or at least contribute to it. They're in the process of setting up the foundation now. So they wouldn't be able to do anything this year, but maybe next year they would be able to.
Well, I know when this first started, it was at least 6-7 years ago when the neighborhood council started talking about decorating that tree, and that we would be responsible for securing the decorations and helping out funding the trimming of the tree, because I remember that first year we did it, the tree was in terrible shape. It needed to be shaped before we could do anything to it. I do remember the city used to have it, but they had those big cranes that were tearing up the pergola. The vehicles weighed so much that finally the city said they couldn't come any closer because they would ruin, damage the pergola as it was, and we hadn't even put in the rest of the foundation yet. So that's when we got.
That's when you guys took over.
Yeah, that's when we took over. And I know, I do know that Brad and I had spoke about it, and he was talking about,
Bring them up.
having us be credited, but I always thought that that's easy because we can make up a plaque that credits ourselves, and then we just get together with you as to the proper placement. And that's the way I'd like to see it going forward, because we haven't been credited with doing the tree, although we, spend about $3,000 to $3,500 every year.
Excuse me, Diane, can I ask just for a minute? I'm going to call a recess in a second to get that. Can you bring them back down here for just a moment? I just got to get things organized. Bonnie, is Mark Hoviter out there?
I'm right here.
Okay, so I'm going to take a point of privilege. Mark, do you have your camera with you?
I don't.
Okay. Who wants to volunteer to take a picture of this with a camera? Because I saw Mr. Kuzman taking a picture of our empty table, And I know that's going to result in a complaint to the district attorney, and quite frankly, we don't want to deal with that. So can I have somebody take a photograph of our agenda package here? And then right after that, I'm going to call a 5-minute recess to give all the board members first an opportunity to get agenda minutes and monthly expenditure reports, and then the public to pick it up. So I apologize for the delay on getting this. And Liz, if you're still here, thank you very much for going down to the printers and collecting those. All right, so I'm just going to take a few minutes.
Now I'm going to file a complaint. Why can't I take
7 minutes, monthly expenditure report, and
Stop smiling. Huh? Oh, yeah. Huh?
So all the board members got copies. Jed, Darren, you guys have? Oh, the budget report is one of the packages right here. Okay, and anybody from the public, if you'd like to pick up minutes, agenda, and monthly expenditure report.
He might know more than I do.
Brad is looking at resolution. Yeah, I didn't know I was going to actually have to do it.
This is a cushy job.
Yeah, we can send it. We can, I just wanted to
I would think that I've
And David, whenever you're ready.
you find a nice frame for that so that because it drives me nuts.
No, I don't want to sit on my desk.
Photos inside. It's junk. That's why because I know exactly. That's a very straight cut.
Okay, did everybody get copies that wanted any? Everybody get a copy? I just wanted them. Okay. We'll get back to the agenda. So we were on Roman numeral 8, items 1A and B. So Eric, I think you were asking Carl some questions, so please continue.
Well, not so much we were answering questions, I was just trying to let those board members and stakeholders who worked here at the time understand how this came about. And we had decided that one of the things we wanted to do was take over, be responsible for the Christmas tree. We secured the lights, we have those lights and everything, but I think just the way it's come about, which is something I wanted to address at this meeting later on down the agenda, but I do believe that we should continue, especially at this late date, to pay the $3,500 because there's nobody. If not, the tree won't get done. Not at this late date. It's usually lit the first week. Isn't that usually what we do?
Yeah, we try and have it done by the parade.
Yeah, by the parade. In fact, it's usually lit the night of the parade. We have a big tree lighting ceremony, and so I think at this late date, to change and try to ask those other stakeholder groups or organizations would be a little late in the game.
Okay, well, before we go into board discussion, I want to see if there's any other public comment on this item. Ernie?
Yeah, I just have kind of a general question. This is, the $3,500 expenditure, how does that impact the overall operating budget of this council? So where would that money be taken from? Other good works?
It usually comes out of outreach. In the past, it's come out of outreach.
Do you have enough money for that now?
That's a good question. We got our budget here. It looks as though we do, but again, Brandon isn't here, and he's the only one who knows absolutely for sure.
So, I guess the other question is, the Rotary Club, who's paying the bill? Is the council paying the bill or the Rotary Club?
Well, for the tree, we do.
You pay.
The Rotary Club pays for the electricity, we pay for the lights to light it up.
Yeah, they pay for the electricity on the premises. We supply the lights, and we supply for the lights to be put up and taken down.
So I guess the whole community benefits from this. I hate to see the neighborhood council's operating budget be impacted. Is there any opportunities for additional resources to be brought forward at this late date to kind of offset some of this? And maybe also even ask the stakeholders to contribute. If it's gonna be a real issue. So there's a solution.
Well, as far as the Rotary Club is concerned, it's your project, and we haven't been out asking for money, and again, it's been budgeted the last 5 years. That's the way it's been.
Okay,
Jeff has something.
thank you. We'll move on to board discussion. Jeff?
So this is something since I've been on the board in 2009, it's always been something we've always done. Some years it's all we talk about. Starting the tree lighting discussion sometimes in June.
Yeah.
And it lasting all the way to December. And for those people who have seen it since the pergola, and then once the tree started getting lit up, it was really sparse for many years. It looked like it had 3 strands, it looked like this crazy cucumber, it didn't look like a Christmas tree. And over the years, we've increased the lights almost every year in the last 5 years I've been with the council. And it's really gotten more and more compliments. Every year it's better than it did before. And, I even hear, it's one of the pieces that every year, no matter what, people are always saying, hey, the tree looks great this year, or the tree looks great this year. And I hate to see, however we have to do it, just go away from being something we've done. We've always done this, it's always been a part of, really what we stood for. And it's our biggest, it's probably one of the most, it's
one of the few times that we have the whole area lit up and the palm trees, it's really just coming our way, so. Just for my sake, I think it's one of the most important things that we do in the year as far as kind of outreach, but also just, bringing positive attention to the neighborhood.
Okay, I want to first check, is anybody speaking against this motion?
What is it?
You have a copy of the agenda now, so I read it earlier. You want to just review it?
3,000.
It's, well, this is a request, so a motion needs to be made and a second needs to be taken. So the advice from Brandon is that we had up to 3,000 available from various accounts. We could supplement that by making a move to next year for some portion of the street fund. So that's what's out there that's available. So at this point, I would like to get a motion made on that. Darren?
I'd like to amend part of the motion.
We don't have a motion yet, so thank you.
So anything you say is the motion.
Well, actually, I'm against B.
Okay.
I'd like to have a strict motion.
Okay, well, as I said, we don't have a motion yet, so would anybody like to introduce a motion to on this?
I'll introduce the motion. I'd like to make a motion that the Granada Hills South Council put up to $3,500 for the tree, for the Christmas tree lighting at the Triangle on Zelsa in Chatsworth Street. Up to 3,500. Up to 3,500.
Okay, and
Do I have a second?
Is there a second? Motion by Eric Masters, seconded by Ross. Okay, since we did just get the agendas passed down here, I do want to give another opportunity for public comment on this topic. Is there any further public comment? Hang on, let me get public first. Ralph, you haven't, Roy? Ralph, you haven't spoken yet, so please.
I'm on the page of all the ladies, but I can check and see if they can partially support this. I can't commit it right now, because I'm only one member of the group. But that's something I will look into.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Kuzma.
Just reiterating that I don't really think, according to the new funding procedures, that you can approve this amount without first reallocating the monies in the budget to know where it's going to come from first before you can approve the motion. You got to state where the money's going to be reallocated from. That has to be voted on first, so you know where the money's available before you make the motion to approve this expenditure.
Thank you. All right. See no further hands up for public comment, so board discussion. Is there anybody speaking against Eric's motion?
I'm not necessarily against it, but I kind of like what Bonnie wrote about giving them $2,500 for the cost this year and another $2,500.
Okay, Bonnie didn't
Okay,
write that.
well,
but
it
I
was
combined
under the
these two items.
beautification thing, on the clock, I have a question. There's the clock and then is there an installation fee and the whole?
There's a pedestal, there's a clock.
Okay.
All right.
I know, but.
I'm sorry,
That's-
Mike advised me that we've got to take these two separately. So, okay, so we've got a motion on the floor for $3,500. Is there anybody speaking against? Jim?
It's not really against, but I've been asking ever since the beginning of the year, where's our ad hoc committee on this? We used to have an ad hoc, a special committee, because it's been in contention for a long time. We really, it's definitely not an outreach thing, because it does not bring any signatures, participation, or anything. It's a beautification thing, but I just want to make sure it doesn't come from the outreach budget. The other thing I said, I don't really agree with people said that Granada Hills South took it over. We only took it over because we had to. And Carl remembers that one year, okay? I am very much for lighting up the Christmas tree. It is one of the most beautiful things we have. It's during the holidays, it's like the center of attention, okay? We have to have it done. I don't care where the money comes from, but we have to, pretty much have to do it. But what I asked other people in the community, or a couple of people, is that we share the burden. There's a lot of Granada Hills groups, Old Granada Hills Neighborhood Council, North, Granada Hills South, Granada Hills North, the bid. A lot of people we've given a lot of money to out of the years. If we got 7 or 8 of them, pump up $500, it's a lot better than $3,500 coming from us. You know, it's just very hard. It wipes us out totally. As far, other than some outreach things, it wipes us out. It shouldn't be our burden alone to carry. So, you know, I think we should think about that. It's not for or against, but I think we should have the right. And I also think we should look at the councilman, and also Mike Antonovich. They're dealing out $50,000 here and there to schools and everything. We need it just as much as they do. I don't know the rules on that. And other groups. So we're not emptying out our whole thing. We still have half a year in our budget.
Okay, anybody speaking for the motion?
Oh, wait. I also have something to say. Our light bulbs, we're probably gonna have to, within the next 2 or 3 years, change them out too, so we have to think about that. Incandescent lights, which they traded for, they only last 3 to 5 years.
Okay. Anybody speaking for the motion? Ross?
I see according to the budget, and this is as of October 31st, we have $16,456.67, and that's allocated throughout this top part. So if you look at the remaining, it's $16,456.67. To Jim's point, community improvement has a $40 balance because of the.
Because of what?
Negative 40.
And, you know, the other stuff we spent. So we would have to reallocate, we have to put in other places. But currently, budget, for instance, looks like the newsletter is about $5,000.
That's outreach. This is not an outreach budget.
So, yeah, that's I see $7,748 in temp service.
I think that's where it was supposed to come from, what Brandon was talking about.
Well, do we have, we do need a funding source for this.
So we would probably have to amend the motion, to say where it's coming from. We have to pick one of these accounts, a larger, or to look at the connected clock in this, pushing off on the clock.
Speaking for myself, I'd rather just delay on the clock. That won't be installed for up to, how long before that clock would be installed?
The clock's gonna be installed within the next 2-3 months.
Yeah, but Christmas is within a month.
You know, I understand that, and I think, I don't know if I'm allowed to speak at this point. All I'm saying to you is, I know you're trying to take care of everything, and that's the challenge here, but, I mean, the clock has to be ordered now, and they have to have the funds. The action that was taken a month ago has set in motion the project. And so what I'm saying to you is, it isn't like the clock can be put in next September, and money then after July from the neighborhood council, then will somehow make it work. And actually, Christmas is in a month. And when Christmas is over, the clock's gonna be up year round. So, you know, what I'm saying.
How much other money, okay, you said $20,000 for the clock. Where are those other funds coming from? And how much have you collected for the other $15,000?
All of it.
You've collected all of it?
Correct.
Okay, from what sources?
We have support from the Mitch Englander's office. We have 2 residents in Granada Hills that came up and wrote checks. We have 1 resident wrote a check for $4,000, another resident for $3,000. Another 50, 60 people would count for another $10,000. We have the money. We need to, in other words, that clock is part of the project of the 4 corners. So the permits that was granted a week ago, you're gonna see those 4 corners breaking ground here. Could be 2 weeks, 3 weeks, it could be tomorrow. I mean, the project's over, but the clock is part of the Parkway project. It isn't just a clock being put in the ground, it's part of we put on one of the four corners, and of course, that's brick, there's seating areas, it's part of, the overall project is about $150,000 that the big stakeholders are paying for. But the clock was never part of that budget, this is always a wish item. So that's why we did the fundraising that we've done. And without the full grant, which we granted a month ago, we cannot go ahead with the clock. And to go back and dig up finished product on those four corners would be even more expensive.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Mike, you had your hand up.
All right. Just for the record, I wasn't in favor of having a clock in the first place. But having said that, with regards to the motion at hand, these people we would be in clear violation of a detrimental reliance, and that these people rely on our vote, and we need to carry through with that. However, I also agree with Ross that we need to know where these monies are coming from. I concur with Jim that it shouldn't be a burden of any particular committee. We can make a possible decision as to where the things should be dispersed from, what committees have money, and we can make a motion to where, or amend that motion to where this is all coming from. I'd be more in favor of that.
And Mike has a good point, it's been mentioned a few times. The motion's out of order without a funding source, so we've got to, does anybody have can anybody come up, Jim, do you have a funding source for it?
Well, yeah, I think what Brandon, our secretary, said is that we had monies in temporary services. I can see outreach, 500 from outreach, but it shouldn't be anybody. In this case, since we're stuck, 500 outreach, and then the rest coming from
And 3,000 from
the 2,500 from the temp services. And I can ask Granada Goes North if they want to give any, but I'm not sure they're pretty broke.
Okay, so are you suggesting an amendment for a total of 3,500 from outreach and 2,500 from temporary
500
services?
from outreach and 3,000 from
3,000 temporary services.
temporary services.
Okay, so the amendment is, it's staying at 3,500. The funding source being 500 from outreach and 3,000 from the temporary services budget line item.
I have one thing. Every time I've driven past that tree for the last 3 years, I've seen the banner that says written by council. Is that an old thing? I'm just getting that it's gone.
It wasn't there last year.
Yeah, we haven't had it for a couple of years.
Yeah.
So then I need to-
Push for it.
Well, make it
Huh?
3,500 from temp
I don't know,
services.
it's something we fought last year before too, which is gonna end up being next week.
And remember one thing, we can buy a plaque or whatever and put there with help from the Rotary as far as a placement that states where the funding came from.
Highway funding, so.
Yeah, I think that is also on us, because there is no other source that we can go to and say, well, we're not being credited.
Yeah,
We're the ones, so we should credit ourselves, so if we're not crediting ourselves, that's on us, not on any other organization.
So that would be an additional outreach item that could go through the outreach committee later.
Well, my thing is this, we keep on saying we're gonna do plaques here, we're gonna do plaques here, and outreach is not reaching out to the community. Yes, it's reaching out to organizations, but I don't see our numbers coming up, and in any shape at all. Our numbers are not coming up, they haven't been coming up in 5 years. Dunn said that we have to do metrics and measure where things are coming from, where our money's going to, how we're getting stakeholder participation. And that's why I'd like to say it's definitely not an outreach. I don't see, how many people have actually come to the council and said, here, I'm gonna sign up because I saw the tree lift. You know, it's not, it's a beautification project, okay? It's still important, but it's a beautification project, you can't call it outreach.
And all I'm saying is that there should be an outreach item, it should be something that states our name, that we paid for this.
That's what makes it an outreach.
Yeah.
If you don't put a banner
All
up.
right, guys,
to
let's
represent-
cut down the crosstalk. We've got to come to a resolution on this item. So we're obviously at a disadvantage here because Brandon is not here. We can only go by the report that we have. Let me just make a call for anybody speaking against this amendment to move 3,000 from temporary services, 500 from,
You say 3,500.
3,500 and 500 from outreach, 3,000 from temporary services, for a total of 3,500. Is there anybody against those sources of the funds? Okay. Nobody speaking against, I'll call for a vote on that amendment. So all in favor?
Yes, do a roll call.
Sorry.
Who seconded the motion?
Ross.
The amendment.
Okay, Jim made the amendment, thank you. Now,
I'll
I'll
second the
second,
amendment. I'll second the amendment.
seconded by Eric Manston. Okay, so we will need let's see, this one's just moving the money around. We'll take a roll call vote anyway. All those in favor, raise your hands, and give David a few minutes to write all the names down. So you want me to call them out, David?
If you like, you could do a reverse vote asking for abstentions and opposition, and if there are none, I'll go, it's everybody in favor, unanimous.
Okay, that will help. All right, is there anybody against the amendment for the source of the funds? I see none. Any abstentions? Gina and Jet? Okay. And Bonnie has recused. And everybody else in favor, just raise your hands for the record. Okay, so the remainder of the council is in favor. Thank you. Okay, so the amendment passes. That takes us back to the original motion. Now that we have the funding source for 3,500, is there any discussion against? Okay.
And I think it's a good comment, because I shopped around a little. Professional sources will charge you $9,000 and $10,000 to do this with an 80-foot crane. The $3,500 price is not bad, but it's just a lot for us.
No, we thoroughly researched this years ago, and we couldn't find anybody who's come anywhere near.
Okay.
That's my only comment.
Any board members, any discussion against? Okay.
General, if I'm able to, and if the bylaws permit it, why don't you put out in the next newsletter going out, ask the community at large, email list, through the email, to ask for donations to help offset the cost of setting up the tree as a community project.
Okay.
Just something simple, like 3 lines.
We'll refer that to Jim. You can take that up.
And then it's an
as you
outreach
see
there
fit.
to participating, your participation. Did you know, something like that. You can
Here's
participate.
Brandon.
Thank you. Hold on. We have a treasurer. All right. I'm going
Mr. Chair.
Time for public comment.
Mr.
Thank you.
Chair, I just want to state
Mr.
public
Guzman,
comment was
please
closed
be
and you
quiet.
accepted
There's no
more public
right
comment.
now. Brandon, thank you for coming. We're actually in the middle of a discussion about where the money's for the money for the tree lighting is coming from. Actually, and you had commented that there was $3,000 available. We just, we were in the process of voting on a motion for $3,500 for tree lighting, with $3,000 coming from temporary services and $500 from outreach. Does that jive with our budget?
Is it for the reports? Turn on the agenda. So, as of October report, we have about $16,400 that's unencumbered and haven't been spent. We quoted a from the
just, that's the amendment we just passed. So, David, can you mention that, Brandon has arrived?
Yes.
And, all right. So we'll get back to the motion. Is there any other board discussion on this item with Brandon's input? Okay.
Took the vote.
Public comment, I will reopen again quickly in case anybody has a comment on this. Mr. Guzman?
No, I was just saying, you know, you had taken public comments after you'd already closed public comment, so
That's done at the
move on.
discretion of the chair. Okay. All right, seeing no more comment, all those in favor, now the motion is $3,500 for the tree lighting, with $3,000 coming from the temp services budget, $500 from the outreach budget. Okay, do I have any opposition? Are there any objections? We have a second on the original motion. Yeah. No objections, no no's, any abstentions? Okay, Bonnie has recused. All in favor? That makes it unanimous. Jed? Okay, Jed is abstaining. All right, that brings us to our next item, which was reapportioning the street clock, which was on here primarily because we may have had a budget shortfall. I'm going to ask, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, can we back up to maybe the parking lot where the
Yeah, I'll bring that up right after. Right after this item.
Okay.
Right after this item, so we can clear this one item. All right, do I have, I don't know that there's a need to do that reallocation, but is there a motion on that? Okay, seeing none, I'm gonna go back now to the treasurer's report. And where was the approval for monthly expenditure report? Actually, I guess that's actually the next item up, Brandon, is, why don't we just take this up under the budget report line item? Oh, okay. All right, so we'll just cover this all in the budget report.
This is really like, under Roman numeral 6(2), and under Roman numeral 7(3) and B. This is for both September and October. I was ill last month, so unable to be here. So we're gonna talk about both of them. And as in the past, I'm just gonna run down the list of items in September and October. And then just one motion, include both. And then obviously there'll be questions, or how, what are we doing now with the public comment? Offer public comment before I make the motion.
Yeah.
So, in September, there was a $250 payment made on the P card to Aaron for the August website maintenance, $5.99 and $6.99 reimbursed Aaron. He paid for the website domains to GoDaddy for July and August. General outreach items are as follows: encumbered up to $500 for the Granada preparedness fair, and I submitted the funding package to be done for $500. Encumbered up to $250 for the fair for food, and I also submitted that package, and we already paid the $250 as of September, for Smart and Final. We paid $132.25 on Open Mics for September general board meeting and food. Submitted $25 neighborhood Christmas grant package done for the street fair. Granada Community Foundation. Received invoice for $520 for pictures. Paid underneath the $80 for front house for the posters and flyers for movie night in August. $500 link motion pictures in August for the movie rental. $190 for Funflix for the movie $54.08 to Jim Mike's for the October meeting, $126.60 to Jim Mike's for the October meeting. Two separate. This meeting. For the meeting expenses, we pay $13.14 for Postal Plus for various copies. Temp services, there was, I had included two different invoices for the same amount, different invoice numbers, but it duplicate, so I reversed that out. Received invoice for $219.78 through Department University for the temp services, September 10th, 14th. Space rental, public storage, $124 and $104 for August and September to public storage. Neighborhood purpose grants, we encumbered $5,000 for the clock in Granada Village, waiting, which I wanted for submitting the request. Boss, $3,140 was submitted for the robotics team. Granada Hills for high school, $1,500 was submitted for the security system. And I submitted that package. In October, hadn't paid any website or virtual office. We did receive some invoices, but now the way this monthly expenditure report is working, I'm just pretty much keeping fast and close to accruing. General outreach encumbered up to $1,500 for the Granada Hills Parade for support. Encumbered up to $300 for table and chair purchases for the Granada Hills South various outreach events. Paid unencumbered with the main warrant for $500 to SOS Survival Products that we had encumbered for the neighbor North Valley Heritage Fair. $2,500 for the street fair, North Granada Hills Community Foundation support. $24 is the remaining balance on the movie movie night in the park in August. $90 to CVS for and $406.77 for Michael's both for the Granada Hills Halloween event that we had encumbered. Moving down to outreach committee budget, there were 3 items that we encumbered in the October meeting. Up to $500 for the Granada Hills Halloween event. Up to $300 for the frame signs, Granada Hills South Neighborhood Council frame signs. Up to $200 for the table and chair purchases. That was a total of $700, so I had to split it. Total of $500. Some of it would come out of the outreach committee budget, some of it would come out of the internal outreach. And then moving down to neighborhood purpose grants, both the Voss Robotics team got paid for their support, or to provide support, and Granada Hills for high school, so that neighborhood purpose grant got paid. I'd also like to layer on 2 suggestions, 3. Because of the shortfalls in the neighborhood purpose grant of $40, obviously we already did 1,000, but I'd just like to include that in this just in case it wasn't in the prior meeting. And an additional 3,000 for the Christmas lights. So 3,000, 1,000, I'm recommending coming out of the temp services to replenish general outreach. And neighborhood focus grants will be 1,000. Another $40 will come out of temp services to replenish neighborhood focus grants, so that it would, the $40 deficit would come back to zero. For lack of a better term. Public comment.
Okay, any public comment on the monthly expenditure reports? Seeing none, can I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion, based on all that, I'm making a motion, can I have a second?
Okay, so that's a motion to approve the monthly expenditure reports for September and October.
Including those reallocations from temp services into neighborhood focus grant and general outreach.
Okay, and David, did you get can you restate the reallocations?
Yes, so total of $4,040 from temp services 3,000 to be reallocated to, general outreach, 1,040 to be reallocated to neighborhood.
Was it 3,040 to neighborhood purpose grants?
No, 1,040.
Oh, wait, what was the 3,000 for?
That's the general outreach for the, Christmas.
Okay, all right, so that's the same reallocation we were talking about earlier?
Yes, I'm including it,
Okay,
because it has to be, it's part of it.
Didn't we just vote to do that?
we did. We voted to take 3,000 out of temp services and 500 out of outreach to pay for this, so.
So we don't need to include that in the.
It doesn't matter, because I want to include it just in this motion, so. yeah.
Okay.
I'm not gonna-
Okay, so that'll basically update that expense to come out of neighborhood purpose grants, right? Because that's where the money is accumulated into. So that includes 500 from outreach into neighborhood purpose grants. We took 3,000 from temp services and 500 from outreach to pay the 3,500 for the.
Yeah, I didn't touch that.
Okay.
I'm not touching the 5, I'm not touching 5.
Okay, so are we reallocating the 3,500 into community improvement and then taking the Christmas light payment out of that, or are we leaving it where it is and sticking with our original funding sources that we?
I'm not sure where the 500 is coming from.
The motion for the Christmas lights was to take 3,000 from outreach. Sorry, thank you, 3,000 from debt services and 500 from outreach to bring us to a total of $3,500.
But isn't it coming, it's coming out of ours, so we're leaving that 500 in there.
Okay, if we want to do it that way. Okay, so you're just moving 3,000 into outreach, and we're taking 3,500 out of outreach?
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
And one other addition, since we no longer have movie night in the park, I want to also include in my motion, to unencumber the remaining $667.19. That's encumbered right now for a movie artist that we don't.
Okay.
So I'd like to restate my motion. All those items I mentioned, plus reallocating $4,000 added from $4,040 added from services, $1,040 going to neighborhood purpose grant to replenish that line item, and $3,000 going to general outreach for the purpose of purchase of the Christmas lights, holiday lights.
Okay.
Also unencumbering the movie night in the park balance, it's encumbered at $667.
Okay, David, can you reread the motion, since you have the official version written?
So this is unencumbering 667.19 from movie night?
Thank you.
Is it moving it?
No, it's just unencumbering.
It goes back into our budget.
Okay, the Granada Hill South Neighborhood Council approves the monthly expenditure reports of September 2014 and October 2014, including reallocating $4,040 from the temporary staffing category and transferring $3,000 of it to the general outreach category and $1,040 of it to the neighborhood purposes grant category. Also unencumbering $667.19 from the movie night or of the movie night?
For the expenditure that we have covered
For the movie night.
Okay,
I
so,
see 691, 1691.
You have one for September, one for October.
So, yeah, you wanna look at October 31st?
So I'm looking at the wrong one.
okay, are we okay? All right, we have a motion to approve, is there a second? Okay, seconded by Mike Benedetto. Any discussion on the item, Jim?
Yeah, I'm sorry, and my apologies, I'm not sure exactly how this works, but we had $68 for the helium for the balloons, the park, that was the 31st.
What do you say, the park?
What is the Halloween?
For Halloween.
That is,
Is that included in that?
no, I did not receive that in my That would go under, not movie night, table and chairs, Hollywood Park, go all the way to the top. Actually, it is included. I'm talking about the Halloween night, right?
Right, the Halloween bash.
Yeah, that's the CVS and the Michaels, that's the 90 and the 4677.
It's tavern services, I can get it myself.
What?
It's called tavern services.
Okay, so I received 2 receipts for Halloween night, $90 and 4677.
Is it from tavern services, or do I just see that
CVS, no,
myself?
it's for CVS. I mean, there's so many events, I'm not sure what to be. This was for candy.
No, this was for healing.
Okay. That, what I received was the 2 items I mentioned, $90 on, if you don't break me up. And the 40677 for Michael's and CVS for Granada Halloween event at that point.
No, I purchased this myself.
Okay, but, oh, wait, hold on.
No,
Hold on, wait, you're talking about your, hold on a second. You're talking about your personal
Yeah.
purchases? Okay. No, that's not included. There were Halloween event items that are included in reducing the 500. It's $3.23. I don't know what, I'm not sure what, I don't have your stuff. I think the email that you sent earlier this week, and I don't have a receipt, I don't have other than an email that it was a purchase of me. But that's not included. I don't know what that was for though.
Further discussion on this item? Hey, seeing none, and David, would you please note that Krishna Crawford Velasco, right, you got it, already got it, all right. Thank you, all right. Any opposition to the motion? Any no's? Okay, seeing none, abstentions? Okay, so all in favor? That is unanimous, and you did get the Bonnie's back.
Yes.
Bonnie, wonderful. Okay, thank you. The motion carries. Brandon, do you have another item? I think you got your,
No, just, if you look at the report, you can see what's left, 16,456, now you unencumber that 667, and that brings up the general outreach to, $800. Plus the 3,000 that we just reallocated in there will cover.
okay. Thank you, Brandon. Sorry to lay all that on you when you first walked in. And so, Eric, on bylaws and rules.
Okay, bylaws and rules. This isn't actually a bylaws, this actually came from the bank meeting I attended a couple of months ago. We, asked that it be put on, and these are about the council files. Did everybody pick up the council files that I had put out and distributed? Yeah. Okay. These community impact statements, I wanted, and in fact, I'm sorry that Brad's not here because I wanted, Lydia, Linda Galvani, she's a bank member, and she does a PowerPoint presentation, and she said she'd be glad to come here and show us a PowerPoint presentation for the community impact statement, because they're starting to change, and we need to nominate at least 5 of our board members to be able to access those council files to keep track of them. Because quite often, what we vote on one month, within a couple of months, could change entirely. Also, we no longer have to vote up or down on it. We can actually say that we're for this if this and this happens. So we have a larger choice as far as how we impact those council files. And we can influence those council files when it does get to the city council. So rather than me reading all of this, you can read this here yourself. It tells you how to go, but like I said, I'd like to get Linda here, and she'll tell us, she'll do a PowerPoint presentation. That way all of us can see and understand how we can move these council files forward in the future. Now, one of the, we'll handle this one at a time. The first one is establish a sidewalk repair trust fund. It's a council file 14-016-S3. That's this one here. Does everybody have it? And basically it says, make sure I got the right one myself before I go. Okay. Basically, you know, we've had a lot of discussion, especially the homeowners, about who is going to repair the streets in front of our houses. And the city came up at first and said that they thought the homeowners should do it, but a lot of the homeowners have rebelled and said, why should we do it? Because for years we were prevented from fixing those sidewalks and a lot of the sidewalk damage was caused by trees that's on the parkway, which was planted by the city. And they refused to let us take those trees out or move them or anything else, and you could be fined. So basically, this speaks to that.
Eric, I just have a question. Is this something we can refer to a committee for review, or is?
Actually, no. This is basically is supposed to be taken up in general council right here, the board, and we're supposed to have how we feel about this council file and make a motion towards it and then submit it.
This work needs to be done in committee. So my feeling is, unless there's an absolute urgency to this.
Well, a couple of these actually are they're dealing with them right now, and we may not even get a chance to voice our opinion on them because, like I said, I presented this to Brad for the last 2 months, put it on the agenda, and he just forgot, and he's putting them under bylaws just because I'm the one who's attending. I'm the representative attending the bank meetings, and so. And I kept telling him, I said, it's not a bylaw issue, it's a bank representative issue.
Right.
Just like Krishna is a budget advocate, and she should be agendized as a report from the budget advocate committee.
Okay, well,
yeah, but it's taken them a long time because I keep telling them over and over again that some of these reports are coming from the city council or bank. They have to be taken up here because they're actually and they're asking us how we feel about this situation. But I understand where it looks like it should come from planning and land use, but it really has to
or public safety
or public safety. But the fact of it is. This comes from a higher organization.
I think this is a great thing to do. It's a great tool for the original councils to use.
Yeah.
Should we avail ourselves of deciding placing our voice on anything that's going on in the city?
We're supposed to. So that is one of our duties.
Should have the ability to use this, and so you brought it forward. I think going forward, we can certainly use it.
Yeah. And like I said, Bunk says that their representative will come and give us all a PowerPoint at one of our meetings. And I've heard other neighborhood councils say she gave a great PowerPoint. They all understood it really well, and we're supposed to have 5 members who are appointed to access those council files to monitor them and make sure that nothing has changed, because if we vote a certain way on any one of these, and then if we don't watch it,